Hello, I'm TV40 News Director Larry Camp. We'd like to begin by showing you our new set and our new on-air anchor team. Ken Gimblin's our sports director, my very competent co-anchor, Bob Whitten, and Maggie Scura handles the weather for us on the 10 o'clock news. It was 2.5 years ago that KTXL Television, TV40 here in Sacramento, began a newscast. It was January 3rd this year that we began the new look of TV40, the 10 o'clock news with Bob Whitten and Larry Camp. And I'm very proud to be a part of that new news team, coming here from the NBC affiliate in Jacksonville, Florida, WTLV Television, where I served as anchor and producer. And before that, well, 15 years of commercial television experience as reporter, editor, writer, E&G photographer, E&G editor, all the things that make a good newsman. And Bob Whitten has even more experience than that.
That means I started by cleaning up the bathrooms. 27 years ago when I got into the field of journalism. I've worked in Texas, Europe, and California. Radio, television, newspapers, periodicals, and every other thing that you can imagine in the field of journalism. In 1950, we put on the first TV news operation in San Antonio, Texas. 1961, the first all-news radio operation for Los Angeles. I'm lucky enough to have received awards for my reporting endeavors from the Associated Press, press clubs, and the Journalism Award from Southern Methodist University, the old alma mater. For the past 14 years, I was the chief writer and reporter for the NBC station in Sacramento, taking out a one-year hiatus to run for the state Senate. And I was one among many Republicans not to be elected. But I'm very pleased to be on the 10 p.m. news on Channel 40, because there is a place for a 10 o'clock news in a market like this, and this is going to be one of the finest that you've seen in a long time. But the people on the set are no better than the people behind them, and we have some fine people that work here at Channel 40.
We certainly do, Bob. A total of 16 people on our news staff. And, well, that may not be big compared to some other stations. For an independent in a market like this, it's a good-sized staff. It gives us enough people to really get out and cover the news, and we plan to do it. We're just moving into E&G. We have our first TK-76 on the street, and it's doing great things for us. A little cleaner editing, perhaps, sharper picture. I think that's the way of the future for television. And we're also trying to really cover the state capitol. We've hired a very experienced Capitol correspondent from Phoenix, and he's handling the California legislature just like he handled the Arizona legislature, and that was good.
Management's even seen fit to build an entirely new newsroom for the Channel 40 News, and that's going to help out a lot. We'd right now like for you to take a look at an example of our 10 o'clock news that we produce here on TV 40.
TV 40 10 o'clock news with Bob Whitten and Larry Camp, Maggie Scura weather, and Ken Gimblin sports is brought to you in part by the all-time favorite, Rainbow Braid.
Good evening. Here's what's happening. The speculation that the so-called East Side rapist is still at large in Sacramento was all but confirmed this morning when yet another woman was attacked in her home. As you might recall, last week, police officers arrested a man in connection with an attempted rape, which they thought at that time could have been the 15th attack committed by the so-called East Side rapist. Well, today, the connection between that attack and 14 others is less likely. More on all this from TV40's Maggie Scura.
Sheriff's Department spokesman will not comment beyond the statement that the method of operation seems to be similar. But it appears that this morning, the so-called East Area rapist claimed his 15th victim. A man wearing a mask and gloves entered a house near Crestview Drive and Madison Avenue at approximately 6:45 a.m. One striking similarity that amazes, perhaps more than any of the others, is the fact that the attacker entered, again, through an unlocked sliding glass door. I'm Maggie Scura, TV 40 News.
San Joaquin County has filed a suit against the state of California. The county hopes to keep the state from collecting what it calls a discriminatory and illegal share of the Medi-Cal taxes in that county. More on the suit now from TV 40's Ron Abernathy.
The suit filed in Sacramento Superior Court would keep the state from taking more than the statewide average of 39.2 cents per $100 assessed valuation from San Joaquin County. Administrator Chuck Dixon explains the purpose of the suit.
In the last 3 years, we've introduced legislation. We've reduced our county share from an equivalent tax rate of 90 cents down to 60 cents.
Naturally, county legal officials say it will take some time to resolve the Medi-Cal issue, but they hope to gain approval of a temporary injunction quickly to stop the state from collecting further Medi-Cal funds until the suit is resolved. Ron Abernathy, TV 40 News.
Now you've seen an example of how we cover the local news in the Sacramento-Stockton market. But in addition, we also cover the national and international news. KTXL is the only independent UHF member of the Independent Television News Association, a true cooperative of news stations in 11 markets in the United States, markets such as Los Angeles, Chicago, and New York. We receive these news stories each day via satellite, fed from the independent member stations. And in addition to the national stories, we also get the international news from an overseas news service. We'd like you now to take a look at the way we cover the national and international scene, as well as our sports and weather. Bob, 7 Roman Catholic missionaries, including 4 nuns, were lined up and shot to death last night in a guerrilla attack in Rhodesia. The incident stunned Christian church groups and brought an expression of profound grief from Pope Paul. Officials are calling it the worst group killing of whites in 4 years of war by black guerrillas against Rhodesia's white minority government. The massacre took place inside the compound of a mission school north of Salisbury. The Rhodesian government is seeking a band of 12 guerrillas believed responsible for the brutal murders. Still to come this evening on TV 40's 10 o'clock news. At 10:30, we'll have a report from Marion Brewer on the possible resumption of the swine flu program. At 10:40, we'll hear the latest on a federal study on fireplaces and how efficient they are or are not. And at 10:56, Sue Mathis will have a report from Washington on flammability standards for children's clothing.
The Secretary of Health, Education, and Welfare has lifted the ban on some types of flu vaccine. Soon, it may be possible for those who wish around the country to immunize themselves against A. Victoria flu. They may go out and get the shots. Marion Brewer has more on the government's inoculation program.
HEW Secretary will not reactivate the massive flu shot campaign, nor will the use of vaccine exclusively for swine flu be permitted unless there's an outbreak of the disease. From Washington, this is Marion Brewer reporting.
Yes, go ahead,
Yes.
Ken.
I was going to say, pro basketball teams just can't win on the road.
Not all the time, anyhow.
No, not all the time. In other words, every pro team seems to have a losing record on the road. I don't know why. Maybe it's the fans. They claim the officials are the same, so that shouldn't change. Maybe it's the traveling conditions, but anyway, they lose. So we're going to find out about a team tonight that not only loses, but they lose even better when they go on the road.
Or worse, as the case may be.
Playing on the road for an NBA team this year spelled potential disaster for the New York Knicks. Well, the state of Texas means double trouble. More from TV 40's Stuart Sato.
Saturday night, the New York Knicks lost a close 105-103 game to the tough Houston Rockets. But yesterday was a different story. This is Stuart Sato, TV 40 Sports.
National Hockey League play tonight. The Flyers won. It was Philadelphia defeating Atlanta.
Some high temperatures reported around the Pacific Coast today. 60 degrees in Seattle, Washington, 49 today in Portland, 64 degrees in San Francisco today, and 80 degrees in Los Angeles. And in Sacramento right now, it's still very mild, 53 degrees. And the forecast for the Sacramento Valley and vicinity for the next couple of days, it will be increasingly cloudy tonight, a chance of showers by late tonight, and another chance of showers tomorrow, but it will be light rain, clearing and mostly fair Wednesday. Highs in the 60s, lows in the upper 30s and 40s.
I think I'll help you.
Oh, good.
I will wash the car in the morning.
Please do that.
Remember that old saying?
Bring your bumper shoot tomorrow.
We'll make it rain.
If you
Always.
wash your car or something like that.
It always happens. I was over in San Francisco yesterday. You were talking about the beautiful weather. It was just absolutely gorgeous over there. In the afternoon, we'd called to get a forecast early in the morning, and they said low overcast, clouds. And it was till about noon, but afternoon it was like summertime almost, you know. Well, summertime in San Francisco is foggy, but it was just, you know, clear skies, beautiful.
Makes you feel a little bit guilty almost.
Why?
We're enjoying all this beautiful weather, and we shouldn't be.
Well,
We should be hoping for rain, maybe during a dance or two, Bob.
we're going to pay for it in
That's
more
right.
ways than one, I'm afraid. Good night.
Coming this Sunday at 3 o'clock, a 2-hour Star Trek special with our special host, Bob Wilkins. A 2-hour Star Trek special this Sunday at 3. Now stay tuned for the FBI.